Hello and thanks for joining me for another video in my All the Mods 9 to the Sky series. In between videos, I ended up getting the last mystical agriculture seed that I needed, the dragon egg seed, and I also automated the crafting of the seeds. I did that by popping a lever here to keep this constantly active, and then I've put pipes under each of these to feed the crafting items to the pedestals. 4 of them are linked up for essence, and the other 4 are linked up for the item that gets infused. And then the seeds just get popped straight in here. And then that feeds back into the pattern provider to then come back to my network. Today, I'd like to focus on Project E. There's quite a few different things we need for the star items. The Klein Star alone is going to take quite a while to craft because it's a lot of little crafts to build up to it, and it requires a lot of this Mobius fuel, which we get using a Philosopher's Stone, which would be the first thing we have to make in Project E before we can proceed. There are a few other things I'd like to do in Project E as well today, which includes getting each of the fuels all the way up to dark matter and red matter. I'd also like to get the transmutation table and tablet and the transmutation module so that we can get Project E working on our network. Before I do that, though, I want to make a quick improvement to my network's crafting capabilities. At the moment, our crafts are done by these molecular assemblers and pattern provider setups, and by these processing multi-blocks. What I'd like to do is create a 7x7x7 multi-block structure, which is the assembler matrix. The assembler matrix is basically just one big assembler and can run crafts super fast all in one little block, instead of having the several tower versions of the assembler matrix and pattern providers. This multi-block acts as both of those, just in one. And it only uses one channel. I would like to get a quantum computer running as well, which would remove the need for all of these, but I'm not entirely sure I can get that set up today because that needs things like the reaction chamber and quantum alloys, which we don't have yet and we haven't looked into. We will see where we get once we've finished the Project E requirements and how fast everything's moving. So, jumping right in. I've never actually made an assembler matrix before, so it'll be quite an interesting thing to try. Looking at the multi-block, here, we need a frame of assembler matrix frames, and then the outside of the blocks need to be assembler matrix walls, and the inside is comprised of the assembler matrix pattern core, craft core, and speed core. The pattern cores act as like pattern providers. Each one of them allows 36 patterns. The assembler matrix craft core is a block that acts as our crafting unit. It can run 8 crafting jobs at a time. And the speed core makes things go faster instead of using acceleration cards, but we can only have 5 of those to make it run at full speed. Let's see if we can make one of these. So we're going to be making a 7x7x7 one. Look like that. And then like that. And like that. There we go. That's the frame. Next, we want the assembler matrix walls. These go on every face, just like that. And they just cover it up. And then it's the same for the floor as well. I'll leave the roof open so that we can get out. So we'll pop the speed cores in again. We can only have 5 of those. That's those there. And then we want plenty of pattern cores. I think I'll have 30 of these. There we go. And then finally, it's the craft cores. I think we should have enough room for about 90 of these. There we are. And then we just fill the top with the walls. There we are. It says device offline. So now we'll hook it up to the network. Just add a cable. And we will see. There we go. Now that it's online, there's a blue outline to it. And if we right click on it, there we go. We can see how many running jobs there are, how many patterns there are available. Again, I've never used one of these, so this is the first time for me. Let's see what it looks like on our pattern access terminal. There we go. So all we need to do now is move all of our patterns, and there are so many, from here up to here. So I found the easiest way is to shift and click on them, which just sends them into the patterns. All I had to do was destroy the pattern providers and keep my magnet active, and they just followed me over here. There we are. That's every single crafting pattern I've made so far, and look at how much space we still have left. Now, if we make any more patterns, we can just pop over here and put them straight in. A good way to test out the assembler matrix and how fast it's going to craft is by making the Klein Star Omega. We need 18 of them anyway, and there are lots of little items to craft to get to it. But before we do that, we need the Philosopher's Stone. Now, I've already gone ahead and made the items I need to make that, which is the obsidian with iron, which is just iron nuggets and obsidian. And then you pop that in a furnace to get obsidian ingots, and then you can use that to make a dark nether star. Then we need 2 blaze rods, 1 dragon's breath, 2 mana steel ingots, and finish it off with a TNT. I've got those here. You have to put the TNT in last, just like that. And we get Philosopher's Stone. If we press V, it'll charge it up, which we can then use on certain blocks. As you can see, a grid's come up now, and it will do things to them. I'm not going to do that with these. We want it in our network so that we can try and craft the Klein Star. So let's make 1. Since it's such a big craft, it takes a while to calculate, but it could also be that we need more crafting storage before it'll make it. Now, one thing I had to do to get the network to recognize the Philosopher's Stones was to make 2 of them. And I think it's because when you want to make more than one thing and there isn't another one available, it fails the craft. And because there's so many, as you see here, it takes 131,000 coal just to make one of the Klein Star Omega, which means there's so many crafts going on in the background. Let's start that and see how long that takes. So it's saying about half an hour for one. Quite a long time. And we need 18 of them. Now, while that crafts in the background, I'm going to go ahead and get started on the other parts. To do that, I think I'm going to need another of the Philosopher's Stones. To progress on the quest line, we're going to need the alchemical coal. We're also going to need the Mobius fuel, the Retinalis fuel, and then we need 9 of those to make the Aeternalis fuel. And that brings us up to here, which is dark matter. Just like getting the Philosopher's Stone, we need the summoning altar to get dark matter, and it's going to need an Enderium ingot, an Aldemodium ingot, a Netherite scrap, and a Sky Steel ingot. And then it's going to need the Aeternalis fuel block as the last one to craft. Red matter also uses the summoning altar, and to make 1 of them, we need 3 dark matter. So I'm just going to go ahead and make 3 of them now. Super easy, that's 3. And then we also need 1 plutonium, 1 echo shard, 1 unobtainium, and 1 insanium to get the red matter. As with the Aeternalis block, we use unobtainium to get red matter. There we go. That's the red matter we need to craft each of the stars. So we're going to need 18 of them. So I might set up an autocraft to be able to do that on here. all you need to do is set in the crafting pattern the unobtainium, or the item that goes in last, as the last one within the grid, which will then feed that in last. You then need to set up a item collector, like we did with a couple of the other auto crafting units, and it will pick up the craft when it's done. And here I've set up 3 summoning altars, which are going to be used for the different crafts to get red matter and to get the star. So we've got one over here that's going to make the star, one over here that's going to make the dark matter, and one here that'll make the red matter. I've got separate ones because the item collector is going to be set to pick up each item, and because we use red matter in the star one, we can't have the filter pick it up and use it because it'll just end up putting it straight back in the network. All I need to do is make a couple of patterns and pop them into the pattern providers. So as I said before, we need to set the pattern up properly. You need to remove unobtainium, find it again in your network, and then pop that there, just like that. And it's got to be the last one. You can put it anywhere in here as long as it's the last. We'll do the same for dark matter, where we have to take the Aeternalis fuel block off, and then you pop it in there as the last item. I'll also set one up for the star, even though I can't make it yet. All I do, replace the Nexium emitter and the star, swap them over. I'm going to change this as well. Do not push crafting ingredients if inventory contains a pattern input, because we don't want it to send more of the same item. We only want it to use the one craft. There we go. Those should be all up on the network now. And once I've got the space in my crafting free, which should be in 5.5 minutes, I can then try making some more of the Aeternalis blocks and make some dark matter and some red matter, hopefully on demand. The Klein Star Omega craft is finished, so let's see if we can use this for on-demand crafting of red matter. Make one. Make sure the magnet is off. And we just need to wait for the alchemical coal to turn into Aeternalis fuel, and we'll see. There we go, that's dark matter made. And that's red matter made. Brilliant. And it didn't take too long at all. Now, because we need 18 of the stars, which will make 2 star blocks, which we can use to make a starry bee and the block on the feeding slab, we are going to need 18 of the Klein Star Omegas. And because that took over half an hour to make one, that's going to take several hours before we're going to get all 18. And that's not including all the other items we need to craft. Now, I'm wondering if I can make that faster by making a quantum computer. Looking at the quantum computer, it doesn't seem too hard to make. All we need is some sort of computer storage, probably 2 or 3 of these 256 million quantum computer storages. We need 1 quantum data entangler. What this does is multiplies the storage by 4. We need lots of the accelerators, which makes it go faster. They're essentially the coprocessors. And then there's the multi-threader, which is like the data entangler, but it multiplies the coprocessors by 4. And then we have the structure blocks, which is what we build the outside of. To do that, though, we're going to need a few items like the Shattered Singularity, which we need a reaction chamber for. And I've been looking at the reaction chamber crafts, and it looks like there are 3 different types of crafts that we can use. Ones that need water, ones that need lava, and ones that need this, the quantum infusion, which is what we need to be able to make the quantum alloy. Let me get a few things set up, which I might do just here. And then we can start building all the parts ready for the quantum computer. So the first item we need is the Shattered Singularity. To get that, we need 1 Singularity, 2 Ender Dust or Powdered Ender Dust, and 2 skystone dust. We also need 100 millibuckets of lava. So what I've done is I've set up a pattern provider, connected that to the network, and got an export bus connected to this with lava. The pattern has everything in it except for the lava, and I've set this to blocking mode. Let's see if it works. There we go. That was really, really fast. Next, we need a pattern to crush the shattered singularity so that we can make quantum infused dust. Because that's what we're going to use to get the quantum infusion that we need to be able to make the quantum alloy. There we go. So I've set up 2 more. This one's got water feeding into it. And this one, I've set the quantum infusion to feed in, which should come from this one. I've set the patterns up for all of them. So now we can make the quantum alloy from the quantum infusion and all these, which we should be able to get using the quantum infused dust, which is being made by crushing the shattered singularity that we've already made. So let's see if we can do that. First, we'll make one of these. I set the pattern to be able to make 100 at a time to try and speed this up. And there we go. We ended up getting 100. Now let's see if we can get some of the quantum infusion and a quantum alloy. There we are. We have the quantum infusion being made, and I've also added a power source just to speed this all up. Now we just need to give this somewhere to go. Just like that. And just to keep on top of it, I've also set a crafting card in the export bus underneath this. So we should always have some available. And there's our alloy. So next is the quantum processor, which, as with all the other processors, you get using an inscriber. But we need the printed quantum circuit first, and we could use the inscriber to get those, or we can use a circuit slicer, and all we need to do is feed it water and the quantum alloy block. So I decided just to use the inscribers like the others, and I'm going to pop them here. And same setup, export buses for the outside 2, import export for the middle. Just need to offer it a power source, just like that. And then we just need to set the export bus to have the correct items. Before we do though, we need to make the inscriber quantum press. To do that, we need one of these shattered singularities and an inscriber engineering press and an inscriber logic press. We'll also need a silicon press over this side. So it's just a shattered singularity in there, engineering press at the top, logic press at the bottom, and then fill it with the acceleration cards to make it go faster. And there's our quantum press. We have a crafting card in here already, and we're just going to have to set it to send out the correct items. So it'll be the quantum alloy we need to set in this now, so that we can get the printed quantum circuit. We'll pop the quantum alloy in there, and then set it to 64, and then that should start to make them passively. And then we set this to output there. As with the other one, the middle one needs redstone, and the right hand side just needs silicon. Then we'll fill these up with acceleration cards to make them faster, and then pop on auto export so that we can get them in and out. Pop a silicon press over there so this one can make silicon, and then all we need to do is just hook it up here. There we are. Now let's see if that's working. Brilliant. Working nicely. And then the quantum processor there. Now we just need to put this in a drawer with the others. And there they are. And we'll pop that just there. Nice and easy quantum processors. They're working hard in the background passively, so I'll let those build up like the others have. If we want them to go faster, we could also use the circuit slicer and use a quantum alloy block. While I was waiting for the processors to build up, I noticed this was taking quite a bit of time. So instead I swapped them out for the extended inscribers, and now I've got loads of them. I've gone ahead and made a bunch of the items I need to build the quantum computer. And before I destroy all of my processors, I'm going to pop it just here and we'll see how it works. So first of all, we need a 7x7 frame of the quantum computer structure. And unlike the assembler matrix, we don't need a different block for the frame and the walls. Instead, it's just all the same block. And just like when we did the assembler matrix, I'll leave the top open so we can get out. So we need one quantum computer core, which I'll just pop in the middle there. I'm going to use 2 of these 256 million quantum computer storages. Just like that. Then we can have one quantum computer multi-threader, which I'll pop there. And we can also have one quantum data entangler, which I'll pop there. The rest of it will be these quantum computer accelerators. Just like that. Have to make sure this fills the whole space, because there can't be any blank space in between. And then the very, very top needs to be quantum computer structure. Just like that. There we go. And it says device offline, so it must have worked. Now we just need to connect it up, just like that, and our quantum computer is online. I started another craft for the Klein Star Omega just to see if the quantum computer would make a difference, but it looks like it's just the same. And I think that's because the sheer amount of mini crafts that need to be made. While I wait for that, there's a couple more things I'd like to do on Project E. First of all, I'd like to get EMC in our network. To do that, we're going to need a transmutation table, which is this. And we can turn that into a tablet as well. What we actually need is the transmutation module. So the transmutation module can be placed anywhere on the network. I've just put a smart cable here. And I've also placed a transmutation terminal where we can access all of our EMC related crafts. And we can also click here, learn all EMC items in storage. And what it'll do is it will learn all the crafts related to our EMC items, such as if we type blaze rod, we can make more. And it's the same for wood or anything else in the network that requires EMC. Now, because we've sacrificed some items using the transmutation terminal, we've got EMC in our network. And this will just sit and accumulate whenever we do sacrifice any items for it. We can put any item in here that uses EMC. And that could be wood, logs, fences, cobblestone, and anything else that has an EMC value attached to it. Like there, phantom membrane, 2048 EMC. Now, one thing we can do is set up a EMC generation area, which would use a transmutation import bus and a transmutation table. And then we'd pipe items into it, and it would destroy them, turn them into EMC, and pop it into our network there. Another thing we can do is just put stacks of stuff like this straight in. And when we look, we've got more EMC. This is just a nice, simple way of generating items without needing the energy condenser here. Now that is most of the quests done on Project E. The last couple that we need to do are just these two. The Ring of Arcana, which is this here, which requires several other rings. And also Swiftwolf's Rending Gale. What I'll do is just set an autocraft for these, and it'll make it so much easier. As you can see there, we already have the craft for dark matter, and because feathers use EMC, we can now auto-generate those. We just need to create the craft for this and a craft for the iron band. I set up those crafts and waited a few minutes, and I ended up with a Swift Wolf's Rending Gale and a Ring of Arcana. That was all nice and easy, and that's pretty much everything I need to do in Project E. I do need 18 of each, as I said at the beginning of this, so I'll probably make those in the background between videos. But I think that's it for today. We've set up an assembly matrix. We've set up the quantum computer. We've got Project E started with EMC in our network. And now we've managed to get the Klein Star and the 2 rings that are required for the star summoning items. It's been quite a productive day. If you've made it this far, I really do appreciate it. I hope you've had a great time. See you next time.